seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, here we go. That is the Sunday Blether. I know I'm not quite as good as Reegan Stevenson, but you will need to put up with a wee bit more of my pish this weekend. And what has been another epic weekend on the Bhoycie bus. I'm delighted to be joined by PHIL MCGINLAY yet again, mate. The big man, without me even having to ask, he just messaged and said, Bhoycie, I suspect you may need me today. And I thought, you know what? He is right. He is absolutely. Mark Kearney has confirmed with a selfie, Phil, that he is face down, ill on a pillow, and cannot move, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I breaking up in my end?
No, absolutely fine, mate. Clear as day. Yeah, good stuff.
Clear as I can see with these daft sunglasses. Aye.
Oh, well.
We've got to though, Phil. Start.
So you're not feeling alone. I'll go sunglasses as well, mate. So you're not feeling alone. Victory sunglasses, mate. You know.
Craig White, are you hungover, Bhoycie? Why the sunglasses? You've just answered your own question in the question. Aye, mate, I'm dying. Of course I'm hungover. What was I going to say? We've got to start the show. Endless Celts. Endless Celts. Yeah, we stayed on after the quiz last night, which was brilliantly hosted by Jonathan Boyce. Absolutely brilliant job. Fair play. We stayed on. Was that another hour and a half, Phil?
it was more than that, mate. It was maybe 2 hours. Well, let's see. We finished about back at 10. Was it going on at quarter to 11? We were still on at nearly 1 o'clock in the morning, mate. Talking definitely. It was like quarter to 1.
I've decided, I like them all. I don't want to single anyone out, so I'm not going to single out Ross Muir as being the funniest man on the planet, because I don't want to single any of them out. But no, they were brilliant. They were just such a great addition. And if you've not followed the Endless Celts, then I advise you do, because they are just real lads having a good time, and we're all for that on the Bhoycie bus. Phil, we are going to try. We're going to try this Sunday brunch and talk some Celtic.
Okay.
There's always talking points to look over, to chew the fat over, as it were. And we are going to try and do that. Charles Smith, good boys. You look cool look today.
Cheers.
Trying our best, mate. Trying our best. I'm not sure if you're taking the piss or no, Charles, but we are trying our very best. It was an eventful night last night. I just think the old pod crossover thing, Phil, sometimes can be a bit of a car crash. At times last night it was nearly a bus crash. But I think overall it's great to do those sort of collaborations with the other pods, and I enjoyed it, man. And
100%.
Fair play to them. We are going to talk Celtic though, but before we do that, we've got some of the what does it call it? The normalities to go through, the sun to go through. Anyway, we're going to go through the formalities. That's it, formalities. Formalities. Please hit subscribe if you've not already. It costs you nothing. If you want to hit the like button, it will get the video more traction. The bus gets busier as the show goes. The road gets fat. We get faster on the road. It's brilliant. If you want to share this, then please do, because that will get obviously more folk jumping on as well. And if you are feeling kind of generous and you want to be a part of this bus, then there is a membership option as well, $1.99 a month, but that doesn't get forced upon anyone. Completely optional. All our content is free. Right, Phil?
Yes.
Let's talk Celtic. We are going to talk with a defender, our record ever costing defender, Chris Jullien, mate. £7 million he joined from. I was very good mates with, but I still am in contact with. I wouldn't say we're great mates now because we don't hang around. However, my friend, I would still regard him as Robin Berner from Goal.com, covers specifically League One. He's got about 40,000 followers on Twitter. I grew up playing football with him and his rich pals, and he wasn't rich, but our pals were rich, and they had ski poles for posts. Well, that's when you know you're hanging about with people from an affluent area. Do you know what I mean? Like, no jumpers for goalposts, ski poles for goalposts. And Robin, anyway, he ended up fulfilling his dream of becoming a sports journalist, and he covers League One. I rapidly got in touch with him just as an avid Celtic fan. I was no podcaster then, Phil. I was just a Celtic supporter. And I got in touch straight away when the Jullien links were occurring. Funnily enough, and you'll appreciate this, right? I generally had signed Chris Jullien for Celtic, mate, in one of the Championship Manager updates. Nice. No joke. Nice. So I felt like this guy's a baller, right? And maybe even to this day, it still biases my thoughts a wee bit. Do you know that? Like, I genuinely, maybe just because I've got a wee bit of an affinity with him, or I think I do, like, he's a baller, man. So, anyway, Robin Berner gets in touch back and he says, Bhoycie, this guy only has a year left in his deal at Toulouse. The fact you're getting him for $7 million is a snip. Rest assured he'll be the best defender in Scotland. Now, Chris Jullien seems, in my opinion, to have divided opinion a lot more than what a record £7 million defender would in normal circumstances. I feel like his negative traits or anything that he's done, Phil, that's not been of a brilliant level, or when Celtic have had a negative result and he's been associated with it, I think he has been over scrutinised. Now, there's two angles to this, particularly when you are the record transfer fee for a defender, then you could argue it comes with the territory. Secondly, though, is he being given the same fair crack of the whip that perhaps a Starfelt, for example, this season? You know, you could argue that, was that Jullien, would he be getting even more scrutiny than what Starfelt's first 6 months were this season? I think he would. I think he falls into that bracket. So, for me, Phil, Chris Jullien wanting to stay at Celtic is already by default going to be looked at him being the tantrum causer, him being someone who's kicked his toys out the pram and is digging his heels, as it were. Whereas I am open on the bus, Phil, to looking at things from a different angle. Why can't it be looked at as refreshing that in the face of adversity, and when his stock seems to be lower than it's ever been at any other point in his Celtic career, he still wants to play for the jersey? Over to you, Phil. Where do you stand on Chris Jullien?
Yeah, it looked, the way it was worded, the headline, I know it came from the Daily Record, which we try not to pay attention to. as Russell put me on the screen by myself. But anyway, I will continue on. Obviously, we try not to pay attention to some stuff, but it was a breaking story last night. I saw it on Twitter just before me and the other boys went basically offline about 2 a.m. or whatever it was. And the way it was worded was making it look like he was digging his heels in, and he was like, "No, you will not get rid of me, Celtic. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do." Why does it always have to be sort of a half empty sort of a scenario rather than half full?
Totally agree.
I'd say you've got to think about it this way, and we discussed that a few times on episodes in the run-in there, where we talked about Jullien's back and fit, when's he going to get a game? I think it was just a case of Ange knew that, right, we are so close to this title, we're getting closer with every game, and it's like you don't break up a winning partnership. But now he's got a fresh start. You know, it's the pre-season coming up. He's got a full pre-season ahead of him now under Ange. Things could change. If he genuinely wants to stay and play for the jersey, then I'm all for it. It would save Ange the hassle of having to go and get another centre back. Now, again, we are not privy to what's going on at Lennoxtown and
of course
what goes on behind the scenes. You know, maybe he doesn't fit Ange's style. But again, this is all just speculation with fans. We don't know. But I say give him the benefit of a full pre-season. If he wants to be here, then crack on and let it happen. And it could be a great option to have, because if at the moment as it stands, if Starfelt or Carter Vickers get injured, it's Stevie Welsh that's going to have to play, because if we're to believe that Jullien was going to get sold. But yeah, going by the headline last night, it looks like he's willing to stick around, and yeah, I'm in favour of it. I say he's definitely, when it comes to the criticisms that he's had, also there had to be 2 conditions that were met for him to have a bad game: a plastic pitch and a really physical striker, where people said that he can't cope with them. And then there was other criticisms of he's too powder puff, he goes down too much, and he's always hamming up injuries. I even saw people talking about the actual injury that put him out for a year, saying that he's over dramatized a wee bit. The guy literally slid into a goalpost and cracked his kneecap. It's like, come on.
Who did he do that for? Phil?
He done that
for Celtic.
Barkas.
He did it for Celtic, mate. He did it for Celtic. This is the thing. This is putting your body on the line, as they call it. As it were, this is something that used to be applauded. Now he's described as all legs like chocolate. No, the actual instinct that Jullien had was at all costs, I keep the ball out the goal. For me, we are not in a position and don't have a great track record enough of signing good defenders to be just willy-nilly about letting a £7 million 29-year-old in his prime French player who knows the country, no adapting phase whatsoever, gets Celtic, has won trophies at Celtic, and we can just go, I think he's raced his run, right? Let's just release him. He cannot go down that Tom Rogic in near Beaton Road, Phil. And I appreciate.
Do you know what other route he could go down? A similarity. It feels a wee bit like Bobo Baldi's last season when Strachan was no playing him. Remember, we had Caldwell McManus the 07-08 season, and Baldi was still in the reserves earning 40 grand a week. And Strachan would play him. And then out of nowhere, in a couple of games in the middle of December that season, Strachan had to play him.
Needed him.
And he was unbelievable. And it's we could end up in a scenario like that where you've alienated Jullien so much playing him in the B team and no using him. And let's say we have an injury crisis and then Ange has got to go to him because this guy we couldn't get rid of. And I really need you to play this week. And it's you don't know what his professionalism is going to be like. You just don't know. So you don't want to be in that situation,
I just think it's spot on. I also agree as well. Celtic don't have these other options. Stephen Welsh is a player who's right now, currently, we have to give kudos to. Under 21 Scotland captain. Okay? Has been trusted by Ange at various points over the course of the last 12 months. Not so much in the last 6 months, though. Yeah. Albeit, that argument can still be prevalent when it comes to Jullien. He wasn't entrusted whatsoever once he got back to full fitness. In fact, got to a stage where we questioned whether he was maybe retiring through injury. Remember that?
Yeah, I do remember
we
that.
We thought his injury must be really, really bad. For me, right now, we have 1 year option. I don't think on the basis of the last year, Jullien commands the transfer fee that makes it worthwhile Celtic's purpose of selling him. Yeah. I also think Celtic need to get more bang for their buck, though, in terms of the £25,000 a week wages he's on. Yeah. So that's the conundrum over to Celtic. But what I'm going to agree with Phil on massively here is instantaneously, and I've got suspicions about this, Phil. I don't know if this is on Celtic, and perhaps they want the narrative to be this.
Yeah.
But it comes across he's digging his heels, and you alluded to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's flip it. And it's David Turnbull linked with, who's been linked with more clubs than Chris Jullien has, by the way.
Yep.
Chris Julien's not actually been linked with a club.
No,
but
he
David
has not.
Turnbull has. David Turnbull, loyalty to Celtic, sees David Turnbull, snub interest from down south.
Yeah.
That would be the headline. Because Jullien digs his heels in as Celtic, situation worsens. It's like, and I wonder if that's coming from the top because he's a high earner. That perhaps Celtic are letting it get fed. That Jullien's situation is more him being a problem than actually us looking at it from a football perspective.
Yep.
Not forget the business hat for a second and go, 29-year-old, £7 million defender. Do you want him in your squad or not, Ange? Of course you do. Of course you do. Why is it getting punted, Phil, media-wise? Do you think that comes from Celtic? Do you think there's a negative angle towards Jullien now from the Scottish media? Do you think perhaps his comments in the French media have influenced this? What's your take on that?
It could have, yeah. There's always that interview that he did just before the end of the season saying that he was, well, again, it could be badly translated as well. We've got to take that into consideration because obviously he did it to a magazine or a newspaper in his native country. So there could be like something lost in translation. But the way it came across, it was like he was basically telling us, demanding that he gets 90 minutes in the last game of the season and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know if it was as blunt as that. I do feel like
I agree with you.
Put on it. I say something could be lost in translation. It could be because it just seems really a character because he's always seemed like he's really like sound and committed to the club. It would seem very out of place for him to suddenly do a Nicholas Anelka and just go all stroppy on us. It's just like, I think the guy's just determined and just wants to prove his worth because I say he's never really been a bad player for us. He's had a couple of iffy games when the circumstances have been, a very specific condition has happened. But no, he's came up with some big goals and big moments for us. And I think for his Celtic career to end on a whimper potentially of what it could be if he just gets sort of sent off packing, if we rip up his contract and just let him go or send him away on an underwhelming loan for a year to sell him next season. It's just like, I think give him the benefit of a pre-season and see how he does. And if he can fit into the Ange's system early in the season, if he can find a way, because maybe we'll start using him in like League Cup games and stuff. We'll see, because he didn't get the benefit of a pre-season. By the time he was available last season, it was at a point where we're in the middle of the run-in, we're heading towards the title. We've got two centre-backs who have, haven't lost a league game together. Why would you break that up? I can understand a lot of fans saying, he's fit, give him a chance, wee bit of rotation. No, I think Andrew's right to do what he did. Just stick with the winning combination. If that's working, don't break it up at this point. Because if Jullien had came in, hypothetically, and we dropped points right away, everyone would go, oh, fuck's sake, Ange, why did you change it? So it's one of the ones we carry in. So Ange stuck to his guns and he was right to do so. But now it's a clean slate. There's a chance for the guy. So if he wants to stay and fight for the jersey, so be it. It's a £7 million centre-back sitting there that's ready to step in when needed. So, yeah, I'm all for it. So, well, let's see how it goes.
I think it's very interesting what you say about the translation. Now, hail times 2 comes in, and it's not hail times 2, because that'd be hail, right? Yes. However many times I said that. But it's very interesting. He thinks that no one came out, though, to say anything was lost in translation from either the club or Jullien. It makes me think it was true. I kind of get where he's coming from there as well. Is perhaps Jullien one of these players like, I don't know, a Viduka, a Berkovic, that when Martin O'Neill came in, he had high earners to get off the wage bill, so he could have the freedom or more freedom, more wherewithal to invest in the squad with the guys he wants. Now, when you consider the percentage that Jullien's taken up of that wage, do you think potentially, and we also reckon that the network of players that Ange Postecoglou may have already identified, the list he may well already configured. When you think of that, is he perhaps looking at the 25 grand of Jullien and going, it's not really my style, but I'm going to need to be a prick to him because I just need him out that wage bill. And I need to free up the money because I've got X, Y, and Z. And if I get X, he takes up that money and the club are going to back me on it because they've saved there. I wonder if this is the first time you're seeing Ange Postecoglou's ruthless side, whereas us as fans can be a wee bit confused, because as I totally agree with you, by the way, Phil. For me, from a footballing perspective, we're not in a position we can just be letting Julliens go out the back door. 7 million guys. And by the way, can I just remind you one thing as well? See when he left Toulouse, do you know he had 1 year left in his deal?
Nice. 1 year ago, and it would have been
This
a lot
was
more
not
then,
a £7 million player. As I say, Robin Berner was extremely, I think, surprised, should I say, that we were Celtic were going to be the front runners to get Christopher Jullien. So it is strange how time moves on. I think we're maybe just seeing Ange Postecoglou going, I'm sorry, but I just need to be ruthless on this because it's going to benefit me. I've got my eyes on this, and this. That needs to go so I can do that. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. But I'll tell you, I was so stunned when we did sign him because I remember this vividly. I had a pure Twitter faux pas moment. Do you remember as well about
He's gone, mate.
A couple of
John
weeks
Thomason's talking about Urhoghide.
Oh,
Urhoghide will not play. He will not play for Celtic under Ange, mate. I guarantee it. He's already been told.
But I was just saying there, like ITK. Remember around about the same time that we signed Jullien, the initial deal for David Turnbull fell through with the injury. Remember that? It was like a two weeks before Jullien signed, right? I can remember like, we were linked the two at the same time. And this is obviously at a point when Celtic were, let's say, notorious for haggling over prices and stuff like that, and Peter Lawwell caught me a lot of flack. So when the news broke that the David Turnbull deal had fell through, I remember going on Twitter and being quite angry and saying, fuck's sake, man, we've blown it again, not knowing the full story again, because you just hear that Celtic have, it's all went to shit. And I said, and if you think we're going to sign a £7 million defender for Toulouse, no chance if we can't get a deal done with Motherwell. Well, how foolish did I look? Because in the end, the story was Turnbull was injured, and it was an injury that we discovered because I thought it was down to, as soon as you see the headline about the deal breaking down, I was like, oh fuck's sake, that's Celtic again, haggling over £500,000 or something. Oh, do you think we're going to sign a £7 million defender? No chance. Penny pinching as usual. Well, egg was on my face that day. I'll tell you, I always remember that one with the £7 million fee.
It's funny.
Never forget it. Aye.
No, that is fair, though. That is fair. That's actually pretty funny, to be fair. We're just getting a lot of comments coming. Brilliant to see David Kelly back in the live chat, Phil. The season must be getting closer. David's been away for a few weeks, but I'm seeing his name cropping up there. And he's always good value in the comments. Hill Times 2 comes back in, though. And I like this. Are we seeing... I hope that's a can of cola, no a can of Tennent's. Are we seeing the first signs of Ange cutting the dead wood, like we were told we would last year? Because we were so short numbers though last year, it just wasn't an option. I do believe Ange doesn't get to the status and the level we all hold him at, by the way. Unless you've got that ruthless streak, Phil. Are we going to see a different side? David Kelly's already in there saying Urhoghide and Shaw will be managed out the club. Again, essentially what he's saying is Ange doesn't want them. He didn't sign them. He doesn't want them. They're gone. If that is the case, could we expect to see further departures, such as Liam Shaw, James McCarthy?
I think Liam Shaw and Urhoghide definitely. Because again, they're still young and there will be teams of interest. I think McCarthy will be a hard sell for us. And the thing is with McCarthy, I'm a wee bit in the boat of maybe give him a full pre-season and see how he does. But ultimately, I still think he's going to be down the pecking order. But as long as he can come in and do a competent job, but he would be a hard sell if we're going to try and get rid of him. He's in his 30s now. He's got a very, very big injury track record. It's going to be difficult. Celtic are going to have to cut their losses if they're going to get rid of him. There's no way we're going to get any substantial transfer fee on that one. But McCarthy himself, I mean, he is a dying Will Celtic fan, so I mean, maybe he's just happy to sit there and collect a wage. But then again, does Ange want a player sitting there collecting a big wage doing nothing? I think Ange is going to be the case of I want my players that are at the club actually, able to commit and do stuff to contribute for the club. So that is a bit of a, I don't know, McCarthy, but yeah, I think if we're going to get rid of him, it's going to have to be, we're going to have to end his contract essentially and just send him packing. I can't see us getting any substantial fee there.
No, definitely not. But it will be interesting to see how Ange approaches that one. I think the romance in us means we all kind of wanted the James McCarthy one to work. We're of a certain vintage, Phil.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of the, the Celtic podcast you watch. I forget when I'm watching like Ryan 118, for example. I've got all the time in the world for, by the way. Great young lad.
Great lad.
But I actually am maybe guilty at times of forgetting how young he is.
Yep.
You know, when he's doing it. And I wonder if the likes of him, Ryan McGinlay, how strong their memories are of what James McCarthy was as a 16-year-old in the SPFL. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I don't think they've ever said anything bad about James McCarthy, by the way. I just mean, you try and look at it from a different prism as a younger fan, and the James McCarthy thing would be maybe a bit of a myth, if you like.
Yeah.
Oh, 16 years old, made his debut, tore up trees apparently in the SPL. Did he though? He was playing for Hamilton, mate. But at the time, I am telling you, mate, he was shit hot. Like, he was the hottest prospect, and Celtic were within ball hairs of getting him. And in fairness, that is just as bad as the John McGinn one for me.
Well,
not getting him over the line.
It was at the time, so I can remember that was around about the time we signed Will Flood, wasn't it? And we haggled on Stevie Fletcher and him. Well, we don't pretend to be ITK here on the bus, and we might be ITL from time to time, you know, in the log. But I know somebody who played football with James's brother at like a junior level, and he said, see, when Celtic didn't get the deal done to sign him back in like was 09, 2010, he was so gutted. Like James McCarthy, if Barcelona had came in for him and Celtic on the same day, for instance, he would choose Celtic every day. All he ever wanted to do was play for Celtic in his career, and now he's finally came here, and it's at a point where it's just not really going to fit. But yeah, you can't question his commitment to the club. He absolutely loves the club, but it's just sometimes it just doesn't work. Just the wrong circumstances it's came under. But yeah, he is. I can see him maybe being, contract, that ended and just sent on his way. Basically, that's the only way I can see a way out for him.
The romance is there definitely for McCarthy to do good things in a Celtic jersey, and I think it is based, like David Kelly saying there. He is one of the best 16-year-olds that's played in Scotland. He was a joke how good he was.
Aye.
And I remember it clear as day.
Yep.
Clear as day. It was the first player I remember being ages with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I went, he's the same age as me.
Aye.
Like, how's he doing that? Do you know what I mean? I'm just still focusing my balls dropping. You know what I mean? And I've got this James McCarthy running about schooling teams. But we will move on. Harry Kuehl incoming. Now, Phil, I've got a couple of questions for you on this one, right?
Yep.
Now, instantly, the Kuehl appointment was also bridged with the news Stephen McManus is going to now be basically into the B squad, overseeing B squad affairs. He's not taking over McIntyre, has he?
No, he's just going to be working with the coaching team of the B squad. Yeah.
So let's take the Celtic hat off. You look at that in any operation, any sort of company, and you are instantly saying that is a demotion.
People would see it that way.
You have been replaced by someone of a superior CV, superior experience in the game, and whether we like it or not, Harry Kuehl's getting love because of his playing career as well, which actually has no relevance to his coaching career. But because of the gravitas of his playing career, we're all a wee bit under that trap as well of going, Harry Kuehl, still a big name. In the meantime, there has to be collateral damage. Now, if you remember correctly, there was a couple of rumours going around last year that the reason Stephen McManus had been added to the dugout is because actually he was Ange's preferred coach out of the three Musketeers. So there was Kennedy, who no longer... Now, Kennedy was undeniably Celtic's number 2, right?
Yep.
That is who he was to Neil Lennon. He was number 2. Last year, no one knew who was number 2.
Nope.
Then it seemed to surface that perhaps it was actually a dark horse and that Stephen McManus had been promoted because Ange had liked what he'd seen so much. He's actually the guy that he trusts the most. Strachan and Kennedy are very much part of the coaching structure, but not with the same responsibilities they perhaps had before under Neil Lennon. Now, that goes against then why those two will remain in that dugout next season.
Yep.
And yet Stephen McManus will not be because he'll be dealing with the B team. Obviously, I totally understand, I respect, and I want Celtic every season to evaluate all positions, whether off the park, on the park, and improve on them. And if Harry Kuehl is an upgrade on Stephen McManus, perfect. Good. That's fine. It's good for the club. However, that means Stephen McManus wasn't as high up the coaching order as we thought. Or is it because the trust Stephen McManus has from Ange, that Stephen McManus is the one guy Ange wants to be in charge of the B team to maybe potentially fast track the pathway of players from B team to first team. And maybe Ange has been a bit frustrated so far at the lack of that sort of development. There's not been many he's brought through. And maybe he wants now to have his favourite set of eyes from his coaching staff at that level, because he'll trust his judgment. Drop the mic. He'll trust his judgment more than anyone else's. What do you make of that?
I think initially a lot of people would instantly look at it and see him being moved to the B team, and will look at it in a black and white way and be like, oh, he has been demoted. That's a demotion. And it's like, no. I think there has to be concern at the top at Celtic, going all the way from the top right through the management team, about the number of youth players that we have lost in recent years because of the lack of progression. And a lot of that's not necessarily Celtic's fault. A lot of it's to do with the SPFL and the structure in the last few years, where the reserve league was taken away. And then last year they had this idea, we'll put the Celtic Colts and the Rangers Colts into the Lowland League, and now Hearts Colts teams joining them this season. So it was going to be a 1 year shot, wasn't it? But it's better than nothing. I mean, they're still playing Lowland League teams. At least they're playing football on a regular basis. So that's got to be a good thing. So this I can only see as a good thing, where we've got a guy who's worked with Ange closely, going down there, and he can get a close eye, and maybe we will start to see more getting promoted. I mean, we've just had Ben Doak. Ben Doak signed for Liverpool, and he looked like a highly, he was going to be a player. He got those few games. He came on against Rangers and Dundee United, and it looked like at the time, because there was he was coming up to the end of his contract. Maybe we were trying to sway him to sign a new deal, but obviously he's opted for Liverpool in the end. And hey, we can't compete with the money and stuff. I mean, the boy's not going to get a game with Liverpool right away. He's going to spend a good few years, but at least when he's playing for Liverpool's reserves, if he does, he will be playing on a regular basis, because they've got a proper reserve league down there, like an actual well-structured one. And if that all else fails, they'll get loaned out to English Championship clubs and League One, which is still a good enough standard. They'll be playing against fellow professionals. So I think McManus going down there is also partly to combat stuff like that, because I have been getting concerned with the number of youth players. I know there's a whole thing about, when it comes to football fans, without being fickle, where if you've got the option to sign a guy for 5-6 million quid and he's got a really fancy sounding second, you can promote this guy for your youth team. Football fans are always going to go, oh, I want the big shiny one with the price tag next to him instead. But they say there could be a lot. I mean, we talked about Dembele last year's look at Dembele. A few years ago, he was he was so highly thought of, and all these rumours, all these teams looking at him, and he's basically left the club on a whimper now, just been released. That's it. The fairy tale's over. So you want to try and combat stuff. I think McManus going down there, it's a trusted lieutenant, and it will bridge the gap. So, cheers.
Yes.
Thank you. So I can see it as a positive, but I see a lot of fans will look at it and be like, they'll think it's emotion, and also they might question it and go, because I mean, how Gavin Strachan and that laptop cops so much flack, they'll be confused as to why it's no him that's getting removed. But no, Ange, I think there's more structure coming in now, and I think last summer, with the way it was all quickly thrown together, with how we had to get a manager in, I don't think we had time to make any structure with the coaching staff, and we just had to not wing it. I don't know if wing it is the best word for it, but he just had to go with what he had. But now he's in, he's settled, and I think we're now starting to see those pieces. And Harry Kewell, phase two.
Phase two. I've got breaking news. Not
Good
about
stuff.
Celtic, quite.
All right, okay.
Remember we were talking about Hill Times 2?
Mm-hmm.
You'll not even believe what he's done, right? So he's DM'd me, and I've been trying to read it while she's been talking, Phil, right? And I'm going, what the fuck is he on about?
Mm-hmm.
St. Roch's. How do you pronounce that? St. Roch's.
St. Roch's. R-O-C-H-S. Yep, St. Roch's.
The Bhoycie bus will be on their shirts this season.
No way. What? Exclusive? Oh my God. Nice.
He has put it on the away top for free. He must have won a competition or something.
Oh, wow. Hill Times 2.
We need to get Hill Times 2 in, mate. I don't know. I feel like I don't understand what's happening here, right? But it looks, I think we won the competition.
Nice.
I think Hill Times 2 needs to come in and fill us in what's going on. But anyway, St. Roch's have tweet saying The Bhoycie bus will be on our shirts this season. Come on!
Yes! Come on. Love it. You're up at James McGorry Park.
We just
Valentine?
keep winning games, by the way. We just keep winning, mate. Honestly, what the haters hate. We just keep winning, mate. It's called positivity. Phil, see, when you believe, I believe, everyone else believes, magic just happens. I have no insight on this. I have no idea what they're talking about. And I have just been sent that tweet.
Okay, nice. That's
live,
man.
On air.
Live breaking news. Superb.
I can only go by what St. Roch are saying. But they are saying our shirts. I mean, if everyone wants to...
I'll go on Twitter and just have
Why don't I bring it up on the screen? We'll bring
it up. Yeah, do it, man.
Let's do that. This is... Sorry, Phil, because I know we were in full flow having a great debate.
That's all right.
I do apologise, mate. It's just this...
That's okay.
You know what I mean? You're reading something, I'm like, I want to concentrate on what Phil said, but I'm also going, what?
Yeah, St. Roch's tweeted 2 hours ago about a competition they were running to get your sponsor on like the sleeve of their shirt and the front of their shirt. And by the way, their away shirt next season is based on Celtic's away shirt this coming season, the black with the green stripes. So that's the Bhoycie Bus logo is gonna look really fucking cool on that shirt.
Where is it? Like 41 minutes ago. Unbelievable, by the way. Right, we will share this so that you guys can see if you're watching. This is mental, by the way. Like, I'm like, I can't even keep up with what's going on. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm sorry, it sounds like we're disorganized just now.
Breaking news does that. But I'll tell you what, that's award-winning breaking news, I think you'll find. Yes, indeed.
And you know what? Hey, he'll have some sob story about how, you know, they didn't get picked and all that. Do you know what I mean? I did a lot of work for a gentleman who worked at St. Roch's, but it's been thrown back in my face, and I'm really... Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Has the Bhoycie Bus just done a call-up without even knowing it?
Nice. Wow. Bhoycie Bus is on a roll, mate, in the last 24 hours. Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh, man.
I am buzzing. And by the way, I know one of the guys on the board. Remember, he used to be on the old other pod.
Yes.
And he got taken off because he was described as, you know, I know Paul John Dykes, not in keeping with the narrative of the brand and all that bullshit. But I know he liked me. So I wonder if we will be working together again. That's amazing.
Well done, your time too, by the way. Well done. Superb, mate.
He's entered that behind my back. What a legend. Yeah, and St. Roch's are always linked with Celtic. You're absolutely right. And now they are linked with a Bhoycie Bus and Celtic.
You bring positivity, and when you do good things, people do good things for you as well. It's all karma, mate, and that's it. It's all good positive vibes on the bus, mate. Somebody's went and done that without you even knowing, mate. And look what's happened, man. What a surprise. A genuine reaction there, folks, on the Bhoycie Bus. We're both as stunned as you can imagine right now.
I'm trying to process what's happening here. I'm like I'm not you. Like, I know I come over like, well, you know, just taking your stride. Like, genuinely at times where you're going, what the fuck is actually happening here? Like, I can't keep up. And I'm always like, you know, like to remind people, I do have a full-time job, right? This is genuinely just what I do on top of my job. And I mean, it just feels like every day. I text you this, in fact, on Friday. Yep. I said, it feels now that every day is a good news day for all of us on the Bhoycie Bus.
It continues to be a beautiful Sunday, as the song goes.
So let's lower the tone.
Yeah, let's lower the tone, aye. Oh, yes.
This is my headline of the day, mate. Is it farcical already? We are now, Phil, talking about VAR conundrums. There's going to be X amount of cameras on Sky-covered games, only a limited number of cameras on certain games. VAR isn't coming into play until December. Is this really the VAR that Scottish football is looking for? Or should we park it till next season and get it right?
Yes, we should. You either do it or you don't. None of this in between, none of this shade of grey. Where we're halfway through the season, we're going to introduce it when we've already, at that point, played about 20 games. I remember when VAR came in for like world football, it was in the 2018 World Cup, the 2017 Confederations Cup, they trialled it, and it was a bit farcical, but for the 2018 World Cup, they brought it in. I remember the BBC or ITV, whichever channel, the first game they were covering, they did a full feature on it. At each stadium, at that World Cup, there were 33 different cameras. So when I heard about the English Premier League bringing it in, they can cope with it, they've got the infrastructure, but with Scotland bringing it in, and I was like, you're going to need as many, maybe not 33 cameras, but you have to have a consistent number of cameras, because one missing from a specific angle could be the difference between a referee getting it right and wrong. I mean, we've seen many times you've watched a game that's had VAR and it goes to like 4 or 5 different angles, and you're still like, I don't know what they're seeing, but then maybe the 5th angle it goes to, you go, oh God, there's the foul. Now I can see it. And if it's up at Dingwall, for instance, and they've only got like 6 cameras there, and it's like that one, if they had 7 cameras, that could make the world of difference. Things like that. And it's like, these are the things that are going to come into play. Obviously, we've got the massive concerns over the refereeing standard as well. And I know Mr. Madden has obviously buggered off to England this week, which is an interesting story in itself. We've touched on that a few times this week at different points where we think he might have known that he was obviously leaving, and the SFA knew, and they gave him that little going away parade for the farcical semi-final. But anyway, it's water under the bridge now. But mate, I know a lot of people have raised stories about, like, they're worried about, the biasness in refereeing. Celtic fans were notorious for talking about the Rangers leaning bias that comes with ref, but that's not even what concerns me. It's just how they're going to interpret the rules. Because, mate, I've got like again, don't put it to ITK, but I have got an astounding story which floored me a couple of years ago. So
ITK on the Bhoycie bus.
I know, mate. I know. So this again will just show you guys exactly what we're up against in terms of the standard of refereeing, right? So a few years ago when I started in my job, right, that I'm currently in just now, one of the boys that worked alongside the team, good Celtic fan, big guy named Aidan, he was also a coach at the Glasgow Uni football team. He also coaches them. Yep. He was doing his UEFA badges as well while he was working with us. And he told me about some of the stuff. Now, he said that big Christoph Berra and Andrew Driver, former Hearts players, were on the same course as him for the UEFA. I think it was a B license, right? Okay. Part of the course is like refereeing decisions, because also if you're going to become a coach or a manager, you've got to be clued up on the rules, because at some point you're going to clash with a referee. You're going to take it to the FA, take it to the SFA next week, as that commentator once said. You've got to make sure that you know the rules and you're challenging for the right reasons. So part of the course was an actual category grade 1 referee from Scottish football came in and did a course with them. And at part of the course, he showed them a bunch of examples of like fouls and stuff like that. So I went through this video. I got to like, it was a game for like Bayern Munich Arsenal in the Champions League. And it was like a clip of like Lewandowski getting fouled, and then there was a wee bit of afters. Mm-hmm. So basically then the referee, and I say this referee currently is active in the SPFL and the Scottish Premiership on a regular basis. I'm not going to mention his name though, because obviously we're on the internet, don't want to get names out there. But he goes around the class and goes, what do you think that decision is? And everyone's like, booking, whatever. No, just going all the way around. And then at the end he goes, well, it's a red card. So then everyone's like, well, why is it a red card? And he goes, because it just, essentially the gist of it was, because it just is. It's like, you're a referee. You are actually a referee in our league, and you're just basically telling them that's a red card just because it is.
Where's the definition? Where's the actual reasoning? How'd you learn even from that sort of insight?
Aye. And then another one, a few years ago, like my cousin, she got married to a guy who did a refereeing course and actually refereed at amateur level. But on the same class he was in as a current referee, or active in the SPFL right now. And he told me a couple of years later saying that referee loves being the centre of the attention and loves making controversial decisions, to which I was like, that is the worst trait a referee could have. Imagine going into a game and actually being a referee that loves causing a wee bit of controversy, a wee bit of a stir. And I was like, these guys are actually active referees in our league right now. So forget the whole bias towards Rangers and all that stuff. This is the standard of what we're up against. Guys who just go, that's a red card because it is, and can't actually define what the rules are. It's like, how can you be trusted? How? And now you're going to sit these guys in front of the cameras. I mean, you're going to get moments at Celtic Park next season. We're going to get a VAR decision. And how do you know that these referees aren't going to go over, look at the screen, and still come back and give the wrong decision? How? Oh, it's bonkers to think. I'm worried about things like that more than what team they might support. How do they interpret the rules? That worries me more. It really does.
I think that's right. It's very important. VAR is a fantastic vehicle to use, right? Brilliant vehicle to use. And it is the future of football. Whether we like it, whether we don't, whether it's took a wee bit, the emotion is a completely different debate. However, you cannot also let the lunatics run the asylum. And unfortunately, in the case of Scottish football, if we try and fast track this, if we are to go down the road, Phil, of bringing it in for Christmas time, because apparently that's the earliest date we can, how we can't do it for the summer actually makes me question more. Maybe there is more in-depth training that's required for this. But if that is the case, and that is the circumstance, then for me, we have to then wait. Well, 6 months later might be further down the pipeline than people want. What I can also appreciate, Phil, is if we do it next summer, it will give also a further 6 months training to those who are going to be empowered with it. And I have got to be honest. I think the official standards here is very poor.
Oh, God.
Really poor. Some could say bias. I get that. And I get the argument. And I get, the experience of Bobby Madden in that cup semi. And again, I will go back to it. Celtic will rank rotten.
Yep.
Bobby Madden, though, also, for me, was sheer bias that day. Now, if we are still to allow that current calibre of officiating to go on, then what difference really is the VAR going to make when it's the same guys in front of the camera? Then it gets down to Phil this. I think we've got, remember, what was she called? The compliance officer.
Compliance officer, yep.
Do you remember that 3 seasons ago? It was like the compliance officer season,
Yep.
Every single decision that went wrong was all it was on the radio for the whole week was talk about the compliance officer, where they can step in, where they can't. Who is the compliance officer? Who's on the panel? We are going to end up with that Mark II. Yeah. I believe with the VAR situation, Phil.
Well, if the compliance officer stuff's going to get involved again, to me, that's always too late. See, these retrospective bans, they're too late. You've seen things like a decision that gets turned into a red card a week later and the guy misses a game, but it's like that actual game he was allowed to finish that he should have been sent off in. So for me, the whole compliance officer thing is a complete waste of time because it doesn't actually punish the person involved or the team involved. They still get away with it for the game when the red card should have been dished out or that penalty should have been awarded, all these things. But I could see stuff like that happening. You're right, and yeah, you will get who was on the panel for the VAR, because I believe it's all ex-referees that are going to be involved in that. So
and that's where the whole crux of this problem is. What the core nature of the refereeing standard has been. Why on earth would we have these guys now implementing what is meant to be the modern, forward-thinking formation of how our games are officiated, refereed, whatever you want to describe it? Why on earth then would you have the dinosaurs of the past? And by the way, without trying to be overly on the fence, I think there is now actually a body of evidence to suggest even Hugh Dallas, right, is sacked from his fucking job after he's retired as a referee because he's sending effigies of the Pope.
Yep.
Don't ever tell me he was going to be a fair-minded referee when he was at his peak.
Yep.
Don't tell me it because it's bullshit. Right? It's just bullshit. And it's not being conspiracy theories. This guy doesn't lose that job, mate, for what he sent. If you're telling me he was older then, wiser then. So when he was at his pomp, and probably as well, you need to also bring into line the peak of his fame, as it were. So his ego would have been through the roof.
Yeah.
He 100% was a cheat. Whether we like it or whether we don't, he was. Now, I still believe within the SFA big house, a lot of these referees came from a certain background. Yeah. With a certain affiliation to certain clubs. That is the norm. And by the way, it may well just be that more of these type of people want to be referees. Maybe you didn't get many cool Celtic fans wanting to be referees, right? Maybe we need to accept that, But undeniably, you cannot solve a problem by using the causes of the problem to officiate and look over and oversee how that problem solving is being managed. It doesn't all add up, Phil. Right? We need to accept it. I believe we need completely obsolete eyes on this. Obsolete. What a word, by the way. I don't even know if it's the right word. I'm now actually thinking that it might not be the right word.
Obsolete means like old and out out of date, basically. It's obsolete.
Damn.
But they are. I mean, these referees are obsolete and out of date.
We don't need them. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, oh God, I had a great word in my head where it means you're looking at it from a different prism. Right. That is when you now talk about going down the road of foreign refereeing.
Yeah, that would be a good shout.
If Bobby Madden is good enough for League One in England, why don't we get a raft of League One referees from England to come up and referee our games? I would take that. I'd even mean, like, don't need to be Swedish, don't need to be for Greece. I'm quite happy with a raft of the lower league England, because at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is Bobby Madden has relinquished his FIFA status to go down to League One, League Two refs.
Yeah.
Right? Pool of refs. Now, if that is the case, that's the level of our refereeing, or where our top refs go, then why don't we just bring a raft of them up, Phil?
They need to be professional first and foremost, a pro ref, because this is one of the big problems up here. They're paid part-time. It's a part-time job. They go and do their other job, and then they get paid to be a referee. But these other countries have got a full professional quota of referees. You know, they get proper training and everything. So I would love to see like referees from a neutral country brought in, because the SFA know it all too well. The Celtic Rangers fixture is such a powder keg fixture. You know, one wee mistake and that's it. You know, you're going to feel the wrath from one side of the fan base or the other. It's like, get a neutral referee in, and then that erases all doubt. But they won't do it. They won't at all. And another referee also that was caught, you know, you talk about the Hugh Dallas one. Remember Mike McCurry? Do you remember that name? From the sort of 2000 through like 2010 era, run about there, that decade. He's the one that infamously in a 3-3 draw at Ibrox with Dundee United and Rangers, where Craig Levein gave him full pelt on the sideline, absolutely tore it to pieces.
That's right.
Was it De Vries, the big striker for Dundee United, scored a goal that deflected off Davy Weir's heel and went into the net, but that Noel Hunt that played up front for Dundee United was standing offside, but not interfering with play. But it got to the point where Craig Levein was fucking fuming, to the point where you could hear him shouting over the Ibrox crowd, telling him, Mike McCurry comes over. He fucking gets laid into him. Mike McCurry sends him to stand, and after the game, Craig Levein did not hold back.
That's right.
Mike McCurry is now doing the circuit alongside like Gordon Smith and stuff like that at the Rangers after dinner speaking. And is guys like him going to be doing the VAR? Come on now.
And by the way, I don't think that's out the question.
It wouldn't be. That's the timeline. If you're talking to like Hugh Dallas and stuff like that, could be involved, and Kenny Clark and all that. Well, Mike McCurry was about the same year. And what was the referee that we got? He lost job. Dougie McDonald, the one that gave
Dougie McDonald at Dundee United. Was it Dundee United? And he's literally what was it? Him and the linesman went into cahoots.
He made a mistake and told Stephen Craven, who was the linesman, I've made a mistake here, can you just basically cover for me? And Craven had to go along with it. And in the end, Craven basically sort of testified against him, essentially, saying, no, he basically told me to lie. So Dougie McDonald lost his job. And as a result of the fallout for that, we had a brief period where we had foreign referees come in for a couple of weeks, because the referees essentially went on strike because Celtic dared to call out a referee for lying. And we were the bad guys. We were set up as the bad guys in that whole thing. And it's like, we've literally called a guy out for doing his job wrong, and we're the bad guys.
Well, I think as well, you know, it's very interesting because see, when you actually look at the level of officiating. Now, officiating, when you're a referee, you represent the SFA. Now, this goes back to the top. We had the strongest guy at the helm of Celtic in the 90s who saved the club, took over the club, and decided it's now a level playing field.
Yes.
Fergus McCann took Jim Farry to school.
He did.
But even then, in a huge victory for Fergus by Jim Farry, obviously losing his job as the chair, what actually was the price of that, Phil? This is the key question. I'll tell you. 3 months of no Georgie Cadete.
Yep.
Right? So yes, the court case that ensued was the first time they'd ever been held to account like this. Fergus McCann was not having it because he just treated football the same way he treat any other walk of life, which was quite a refreshing take. He removed the emotion. He went, no, that's unacceptable. You're making rules as you go along. Doesn't matter whether it's a sport or not. You're making up rules as you go along. It's unfair. Now, the fact of the matter is, while Celtic got a brilliant points win there, George Cadete could have been 3 months longer in that Celtic team. I believe he went on and scored something like 8 goals in 10 games. So I've made that up, right? Fine. Yeah. But it was something like 8 goals in 10 games in these wee spell at the end of that season. The next season, he went on to score over 30. Are you telling me that in a league campaign we lost only 1 football match? George
That could be the
Cadeti.
difference.
Come on. And so even though Celtic found their bollocks, as it were, through Fergus McCann, we did hold them to account. The fact of the matter is the regime still won.
They did, and that is the danger with Celtic challenging anything now. They still hold the power, sadly. I don't think we have strong enough people in the board. Peter Lawwell wouldn't even have been up to doing that, but at the end of the day, at the end of the day, the SFA, the SPFL still hold the power, and there's other ways they can still manipulate and affect us. That's a perfect example of what happened to Jim Farry. He held up Cadeti's registration. It means he missed a crucial cup semi-final against Rangers, which we could have, with him in the team, could have been all the difference we needed. That's all you need sometimes. There's that extra body with the goals in them, So it's true. You need to watch for that.
And this is the thing. The reason I bring that up as a relevant argument is because, Phil, yes, we can hold these guys to account, but it's always going to be after the event. So whether an offside goal is stood or whether it's not, and whether VR have went, no, I think his shoulder is onside or whatever, right?
Yeah.
The only time that can then get called up is retrospectively. After the event, the 3 points may well be gone by that point. The league table, as it were, never lies. And if we were to lose, we would be very disappointed. Scott Howe wants me to sing Champagne Supernova, mate, no shit.
the key is that Celtic have got to call it out, even when we win games. When we win games and there's been a bad decision, we need to hold the referees to account as well and point out if we leave it to days when we draw and drop points and lose, then we're going to look like it's sour grapes. We have to actually be consistent. If we win the game still, we still come out and say the referee had a shocker the day, he got this wrong and that wrong, and therefore it's all consistent. We don't get accused of being sour.
I agree with that.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%. Paul might follow much Jonathan Bhoycie, though, to be the new officiation. he was outstanding at mediating between the two teams last night. He was absolutely brilliant. I know I'm biased because my brother, but genuinely, he was outstanding last night. So well done, Jonathan. Phil, one last talking point before we go.
Yep.
Couple of different angles we can look at this as well. So whilst the rumours have ramped up about Siegrist, I think we all know that's a done deal this week coming.
Don't like it,
Celtic also caveat that with the announcement that Joe Hart is now taking the number 1 jersey. He's our number 1, was the post. Is there an interesting sort of set of circumstances there that we're bringing in real competition for Joe Hart whilst giving him the number 1 jersey and sort of chanting his name, as it were, to everyone and reaffirming that he is the number 1?
It's quite rare that, players at Celtic usually change their numbers. We kind of, you see it now, Callum McGregor still wears like 42 and stuff like 42. That. So it's very rare that a player does it. It's a very small collection that actually do that. So yeah, it does seem interesting when you see it like that, we've done it, we've stated he is the number 1, the symbolism of having the actual number 1 jersey. But Siegrist's coming in, as I said before when his name was brought up a few weeks ago, do I think he's good enough to replace Joe Hart on the regular? No, Hart's still better, but he's definitely 100% a step up on the backup we've got. And I do think that, Siegrist will get a bit of game time. I think I'd be pretty comfortable with him playing, say, League Cup games, Scottish Cup games, and maybe the occasional sort of lower team SPL. But if Scott Bain was playing, I'd be a bit like, don't know about this. But I'd feel a lot more confident with Siegrist playing, definitely. Will he push Joe Hart? Joe Hart's obviously well into his 30s now. He did sign a 3-year deal, and it may be a case of Hart just sees finishing his career at Celtic because this could be the last big club that he plays for. I know goalkeepers can play longer,
of course.
But it may be a case of, over the next 2 years or something, maybe this year he'll play consistently, number 1, and Siegrist will get a game here and there, but then it'll start to, we're going to phase 3 of Ange. Maybe it'll become more 50-50 between the two of them. But Siegrist definitely isn't the worst signing in terms of like goalkeeper. And we look at the goalies last season in the SPFL, Hart was obviously number 1. Siegrist, I'm genuinely surprised that our friends over the south side of the city didn't go in for Siegrist because I thought McGregor was done.
I was told that they did. They did want him.
Okay, because they're now talking about Alan McGregor signing a contract extension, which I know a few Rangers fans, like mates and that, and they're like gutted if that happens because they're telling me all the time, he's fucking shite now. He's still lost whatever he had, he's lost it now. And I'm like, well, I'm happy then if he signs a contract extension because, yeah, when I saw the mistakes he was making last season, I'm like, I think Rangers might be in for a goalie. I think Siegrist might end up there. So if we're going to get in there first and get him, then good. Aye, I'd rather have the two best goalies in the league.
There's a lot of positive vibes coming in for Siegrist, but I would love to say my information tells me, Phil, but it's not really such a. But I've got a few Rangers supporting pals, right? And they basically said yes, Rangers were interested in Siegrist. So I think Celtic's got in for them. Here's my take on it. If Siegrist is always made up to be, he'll be number one by the end of the season.
Okay.
I'll tell you why I think this. I think Joe Hart, had he had calamities, which he didn't, had he had a few bad moments, I think would have been very much down the Liam Scales and James McCarthy pigeonhole. I don't think Joe Hart was an Ange signing.
Yeah, because he signed on the same day as McCarthy, and it was kind of like, because he was linked to us a year ago, wasn't he? Remember when Lenny was there, and then we ended up with Barkas? Because I can remember when the stories came out that Hart was coming in, people were being cynical about it. Oh, we're just looking at last season's transfer shortlist. And I think
that actually was. I think there was a bit of that, and I think we had to, because the numbers were so short, Phil.
Yeah,
we had to go right. And I know you want to get all your own guys in, but the actual complications of doing all those deals, considering they're in every different corner of the world, isn't actually going to work and get this completed by the time the season commences. We're already behind. Schedule. So here's a couple we've got from the old, the cherry tree, and we're just going to pick a couple of those apples off. We're just going to gift you them, and you do what you want with them. And I believe James McCarthy, Liam Scales, Joe Hart, all fall into that category. Urhoghide was already agreed, I think, when we were managerless, as was Liam Shaw, which is interesting. And again, beefed up the numbers. Urhoghide will already now be out the door. I think it's very important that we look at Craig Gordon under Brendan Rodgers, even under Neil Lennon. Craig Gordon was demoted to behind Scott Bain. Scott Bain under both Rodgers, we understood because we knew the ball playing goalkeeper, etc. We understood where Rodgers was going with it, albeit De Vries at first was an absolute shambles how bad he was. Then we looked at Scott Bain. I thought he saved a lot with his feet, and I was like, that doesn't work for me. Like I like to see a goal using their hands, but he did all right.
Yep.
Neil Lennon comes in. Now, for me, Neil Lennon goes straight for a goalkeeper doing the basics. Look at his first signing, Fraser Forster, right? So, for me, Craig Gordon is a shoo-in. No. Lennon stuck with Bain ahead of Gordon. I believe Joe Hart, at times, not all his own doing, by the way. In fact, very rarely his own doing. But he is under that situation where he's got to think on his feet, with his feet, and looks very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is that the guy who's fitting the Ange ideology? I don't think so, unfortunately. I think he's very much brought loads to the table, though, Phil. Right? Off the ball. I think his guidance has been so valuable for that young back four. I think the way he has led by example. I think the fact there was examples that the Callum McGregor was saying at the start of the season, Joe Hart was the last out. He was sweeping up the dressing rooms, the away team's dressing room and Celtic. Sweeping it up, put it in a dustbin. I think that's really classy. But all these things at the very, in the cutthroat nature of football business, that we were talking about Ange being a bit more ruthless, as it were, earlier on in the show. If that is to be the case, Ange will not care how many times he's used the litter picker. He will be looking at it as going, who's the better goalkeeper here? Who fits my style? If Siegrist can get that ball released quicker, from his left foot, his right foot, as well as being just as good a shot stopper, I've got no loyalty to Joe Hart. Next.
Yeah, I could see him doing that, and it would also improve. Well, I mean, I say improve Joe Hart. I mean, he's obviously a great goalkeeper, but it keeps him on his toes. It means complacency, because the worst thing for a footballer at any walk of life in any job is to get complacent, get comfortable. That's when mistakes start creeping in. So now that he's got a worthy competition behind him, Joe Hart will be like, "You coming for my jersey? You're going to come for the number one spot? Oh no, son, no, everyone here, man. I've got 75 caps for England. I've won the English Premier League. Oh no, you're not taking my position." And that's good. That's what you need. You need competition in the team. So yeah, if Siegrist can be that guy, then I'm all for it. He impressed me many times watching Dundee United play and seeing him. So yeah, bring it on. So hopefully it does. It keeps Joe Hart on his toes. So it was exciting times. So hopefully that one's over the line this week.
Yeah.
It looks like all the signs are pointing to it happening. So let's hope that's the next one in the door.
Absolutely, and I think as well it's very important, Phil, that whilst I'm talking about this, very encouraging about Seagrass, what we also need to look at it from is I also want to see a better version of Joe Hart next season. That's not a criticism. It's because I want to see a better version of every Celtic player next season, and Joe Hart comes under that blanket as well. And I want to see the best version of Joe Hart. I believe will be derived by real competition, not by what I don't want to slag him off. I've said this all the time, but I think Scott Bain is a happy number 2. Okay, a content number 2. I think Seagrass joins saying, "Fuck you." Do you think I'll not be number 1? You honestly think I'll not be number 1? I need the guy who's signed to compete with Joe Hart to have that attitude. Whether it's Seagrass, Wakefield, Siegfried, I don't care. Right? As long as they are coming in with the mentality that you can even parade that number 1 jersey Celtic all you want. And I think there's a bit of ego massaging there going on for Joe Hart. I think it is almost Celtic's way going, don't worry, Joe. Because I think, as well, Joe Hart has been a confidence player over the past 5 years. I think so. His confidence was shot. And you watch that turn into negative performances. Torino, he pulled up no trees. Burnley, he became third choice goalkeeper. By the time he went to Spurs, he was accepting being on the substitutes bench. Now, Joe Hart, only 5 years before that, was the title-winning goalkeeper. First choice. England's number 1. So that is a fall from grace we can't underestimate. So I reckon, whilst he is maybe now at a stage where, yes, he's mature, and yes, he is, I think he's a calming influence, he's a leader. I also definitely think there is a fragility about his confidence that Celtic are protecting by giving him that number 1 jersey, whilst next week the news leaks that we have actually signed direct competition for the number 1 jersey. We've kind of almost cemented, as it were, for Joe Hart. Phil McGinlay, I want to thank you so much for what has been a brilliant Celtic Sunday Blether. I've stepped in for Reegan Stevenson today. It will not be a regular thing. Don't worry, Reegan is the man who leads the bus, drives the bus on a Sunday lunch. So don't worry, I am not stealing it. I know there's been a few comments about the sunglasses, people thinking we're hungover. If you watch the quiz last night with Endless Celts, you will understand I am definitely hungover. But I'm also thinking sunglasses inside. Never been a bad look, Phil. It's never been a bad look. Phil, thanks again for today, mate. Really appreciate you stepping up. We are going to listen to some Bhoycie bus music for about the 4,000th time this weekend. We'll see you later.
See you later, guys.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.